What up, Whiskey Ginger fans? Welcome back to the show. Merry Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve, you guys. We got a good one for you today. My man Alfonso Ribeiro is on the show. You might know him as Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or you might know him as Alfonso, the host of AFV now. I love this dude. He's incredible, a good buddy, a great golf partner, incredible. The guy's a stick. He's a stick. He can hit it. Better, some say better than anybody. He's awesome, a great dude. I'm happy to have him on the show. I am so excited that for New Year's Eve, I'm going to be coming to Phoenix. I'm going to be there. I'm doing 5 shows. I'm doing the night before New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day. Go to andrewsantino.com for those tickets. andrewsantino.com for the tickets. And then in the new year, I'm everywhere. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, baby. Chicago Theater, Albany, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, Foxwoods. We're just adding dates as we go. And Vegas ends the tour, I think, or we might add some more dates. Who knows? But andrewsantino.com is where you get those tickets. andrewsantino.com. Enough rambling from the old ginger freak. Let's go to the episode.
In here, we pour whisk, 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 whisk.
You're that creature in the ginger beard.
Sturdy and ginger.
Like vampires, the ginger gene is a curse.
Gingers are beautiful.
You owe me $5 for the whiskey and $75 for the horse.
Gingers? Oh, hell no.
This whiskey is excellent.
Ginger. I like gingers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Whiskey Ginger. My guest today is one of my favorite people on earth. I say that for all my guests, but I mean it once again today. It's my man, Alfonso Ribeiro.
How are you doing?
I have to say it with that accent, don't I?
You do sometimes.
Alfonso.
You do. Alfonso Ribeiro.
Ribeiro, right?
It works.
How often do people
works.
say it incorrectly?
Every other day.
Yeah.
Every other day. Like most of the time, actually, people get it wrong. They just can't get the last name really gets them because the E and the I after the B and the right.
What do they say?
It's the Ribeiro. Roberto, they'll add like letters that aren't even in there, right? And you're like, wait a minute, there's no T. And it just it's like I think it's one of those things where people are so used to just having to just be able to see a name and know it,
Yeah,
right? In America, that they don't actually look at the name,
correct.
and then they don't recognize that there are other cultures, right? That have like it isn't E before I after C,
Right.
Or I before E after C, no matter what, right?
Right.
It's the Latin and the Spanish. Well, they mix it up a little bit.
Right.
So there's the EIR is air.
Ribeiro.
So, but you can add, if you get a little,
I like the
funky with
spice.
it, you could add a little roll of the R.
Ribeiro.
Now it's actually a very popular name in Brazil.
Oh, really?
Right. So because
You're
it's
not Brazilian,
Portuguese.
though.
I'm not, but it's Portuguese.
Oh,
so
right.
I'm Portuguese. So the in Brazil it's Ribeiro because
Ribeiro.
R is actually
Right.
the H sound. So it's all over
whatever
the
it
world.
needs to
People,
be.
What? Listen, just call me Alfonso. It's real easy.
Well, like when I was a kid, they would always say Santiago or Santini, because the great Santini.
Yes, right.
But it's Santino. It's unmistakably easy to pronounce. It's the letters is the words.
Exactly.
It's that Santino.
Right.
But still, teachers would be like Santiago, and I'm like, impossible. It's impossible to mess this up.
How did you get that?
Right there. It's right in front of you.
My agent's name is actually Santini.
Santini.
Yes.
Yeah. See, what's funny is, and I've talked about this, I think, on the show before, but Santino was my great grandfather's first name. It's a common first name in Italy.
Gotcha.
Sonny.
Right.
Sonny and Godfather, Santino
Yep.
Corleone.
Right.
We don't know our last name. Now, whether that was because we'd got in trouble and we had to leave,
Right.
because I'm like,
That happens.
I was like, why did we lose the last name? But
listen.
nobody knows. And my grandpa, both my great-grandfather and my grandpa
Right.
are both gone. So we don't really know. And my dad doesn't really know unless
He does.
he knows.
And he's like, we're just gonna we're
We don't
Santino.
talk about it.
Yeah, we're
We don't talk
Santino.
about it. Yeah, we're
moving
Santino.
forward.
Well, I think what it was, the mistake was that, when you fill out papers when you immigrate, it says surname. And how many of these guys didn't speak English?
Right.
But they see name or nombre or name or something close to the word name, if Spanish, Latin.
And they just write
and
down.
they think first name.
Right.
That's probably what I think happened. And then it got down the numbers line
then,
and da-da-da-da.
yeah.
and
How
whatever.
are you going to change it after that?
I know.
Right.
And he probably killed somebody.
Listen, how about we just go with I like the other story
The first one's
where
good.
you don't come from a line of murderers.
Well, let me say this. I do come from my grandfather's crew of friends. were, and he did run numbers for the mob when he was young. That was like a story I've told before.
Right.
But his crew of friends was guys with nicknames. And once I learned, like Joe the Hat,
Right.
and Nicky Knuckle, like all these jokey names, I thought as a kid were like fantasy. It's like TV,
Right.
but it was real.
Right. That was their names.
That was their
Everybody
name.
knew them as that.
Right,
And they were
so-
never going to be known as anything other than that.
Right. So then I got older and I was like, oh, right, they were obviously affiliated.
Well, growing up in New York, most of my friends were Italian.
Yeah.
And
You're the
even
Bronx too, right?
In the Bronx, right.
Yeah.
But and then later in life, once I became an adult, really all of my guys are from Rhode Island. So, Federal Hill in Rhode Island and the whole world I became very, very accustomed to, and like
a lot of
lived
sanitation
in
and
that.
construction.
Yeah, a lot of construction, some car dealerships,
Right,
but
right.
it was really that whole world. I spent a lot of time in my younger years, so I know it very well. I know a lot of those guys. I know guys that you were like, hey, if I need something,
Yeah.
I could call.
Yeah.
And then you go, yeah, but I'm never going to need anything. I'm never going to need that.
Because once you're in, you're in.
I'm never going to need that.
Yeah, you don't need Tony Pickles will get you all whatever you need.
Whatever you need.
Al, you need it. Tony Pickles has got you.
There was a guy here, even in L.A., who I did a couple favors for,
Yeah.
right? And it was one of those realities where it was like, hey, listen, you've taken care of the family. You need anything, we're gonna make sure you're okay. No matter what happens, we got you. And I would be like, cool, thank you. I'm never calling him.
Yeah.
I'm never.
Delete that number now. Block that number.
We're not doing this.
Babe, we have to move. Babe, we're moving. Now we're moving.
We moved to Granada Hills.
Yeah, we're moving now, as far away as we
We're
can.
no longer in LA. We're gonna go north.
But how long were you in the Bronx as a kid?
I was really only in the Bronx for 12 years, right? So actually less than 12 because I was born in Harlem. So lived in Manhattan and Harlem, moved to the Bronx when I was 4 or 5 right there. And then lived there until 12 when I moved to California to work.
Right.
So I was doing a Broadway show, Tap Dance Kid in New York at the time. And so I ended up getting Silver Spoons, and that brought me out here.
To California.
Yeah.
And then you never went back.
And then never, the house was there for a while, and then my dad was still there. And my dad was actually a correctional officer, so he was at Sing Sing. So, he stayed back for a year while my mom and my brothers and I came out here and lived and worked, and then eventually he was like, all right, I'll let go of the force and come out here, and he became a manager. But it's that thing where even though my formative years were not actually in New York, it's still...
It's home.
It's home. It's always going to be I will get in a car. If I go to New York every once in a while, I'll get in a car and I'll drive up to Riverdale and I'll go, hey, that's my house. This is where I grew up.
Right.
I remember playing, we used to do this thing in the living room where we took a sock and took 2 socks and we would tie it into a knot and then put the top over it, and that became a ball. And we played handball in the living room. But it was with a sock, so you couldn't break anything.
That's really smart.
Right? Because
We definitely broke stuff in my house.
Well, it came out of necessity because we broke so many things.
You break some shit again. Break
You
it out.
listen, you are sleeping outside tonight.
Yeah.
So we came up with that, and we would play handball in the living room, and it's like I just remember those days of growing up and being in that house, and it's just it's like. I guess it's like how when you look at it, you think it's just great memories. It's fond memories. You just have that connection that never goes. And then it's like, how do I claim being from California?
Well, because what you said before was interesting. When people say my formative years, I grew up in downtown Chicago with me and my mother. And then when she met my stepfather and she remarried, she had my sister, we moved to the burbs.
Right.
But kids are always like, oh, you never lived in the city. Your formative years weren't in the city. But half of my life in Chicago was in the city.
Right.
And the other half was in the suburbs. I was only there for 17 years. So it wasn't that many years. So
there's only one way to look at it.
Right. So if you say, when people are like, oh, you're from the burbs, like, yeah, that's what high school for sure.
Right.
But as a kid, I have this really strong, my wife always says, my connection to nostalgia is, do you have a strong connection to nostalgia?
Absolutely. Yes.
Mine's creepy. When I go by my old building, when I go by 2310 North LaSalle or 1111 Dearborn, when I walk by them, when I go back to Chicago, it feels so deep. And and when I go back to my house, my high school house, it's not the same.
Right.
So it's odd that people call it, you're like, oh, well, your formative years later. For some reason, the most deep and vivid and probably burned-in memories for me
Yep.
were the sock in the living room.
Absolutely.
By far, right?
Absolutely. Like 448, 258th Street. My production company is 258th Street Productions.
Because of it.
Like, that's because that is, like, that's where it began.
Right.
Right? And so I look at even my career, right? I started at 8. So I became famous at 12, right? So that was when it began for me.
Right.
So my production company is about where it began for me, not, Gardner in Melrose, right off of Melrose, right? Not, like, that ain't the address, right? It wasn't the Oakwood over here off of Woodman that used to be before you even moved here. It's that kind of thing where like literally those years for me were everything. It created the path that my life took was all based right in that house. And so it'll always be real home for me.
Did you live in Oakwood?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
For people that don't know, this is a great moment. It's been spoken about on TV shows and film before. Judd put it in Love, but he called it something else. But there is an apartment complex right off the freeway on the way down into the valley. What was it called? What's it called? It was
there's
right?
Ava now.
Ava, that's
right?
what it's called.
And that's the one off of on Barham.
Barham, yeah.
Right? But so there was several Oakwoods.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
so there was
okay.
an Oakwood there. And then but that was the main Oakwood. So that's the one where most of the people who came to California who was trying to be in entertainment, they stayed at that Oakwood.
Right.
There was another one off of Woodman.
Oh, right. I do know this. Yes.
Just south of the freeway.
Right.
So between there and Ventura. That's the Oakwood that I lived at. I lived there for almost a year.
Did you get to pick? Was it kind of like one of those things where I never understood this because kid acting was never in my world, but I'd always heard about it. But did the families move there because the studios say, hey, you should go live here, it's cheaper?
They gave you, they had a discount. Right. So the studios
it's like
had
a Marriott account. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was like, hey, you know what? We have a hookup here at the Oakwoods. You should probably go stay there. For us, the other Oakwood was way bigger.
Oh, right.
So I didn't understand why anybody would choose that one.
Because it's
when
huge.
It was like way bigger.
Yeah.
Like the apartment size, the 2 bedrooms were like a solid old school, apartment, whatever.
A real apartment.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Not this like, hey, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
I know we're in 2 separate rooms, but
we're not.
But we're really here.
But I see you right now. I see everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when you got out of there, what was your first apartment in LA?
Well, we moved out of there. We bought a house.
Okay.
And my family bought a house in Northridge. So we went further away.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially when I turned 18, and I started Fresh Prince. So I was
never heard of it. Is it a popular show?
It was a little thing that like this
the tiny
dude,
show?
Big ears. And then he had a show.
Smythe?
Yeah.
Bill Smythe?
Smith.
Bill Smith. Yeah.
I think it's Smith.
Smith, yeah.
Smith. It's
Popular.
Pinkett now. It's Pinkett Smith now.
It is. Mr. Pinkett.
But I moved out when I did the show because it was like
You're grown.
Yeah, I was a grown up. I was working on a show. I was
Yeah.
like, it's time for me to go and have my own space and
Right.
and the reality was like the cast would go out at night, and I'd be like, I need 2 hours. They'd be like, why do you need 2 hours? I got to drive home, and then I got to change my clothes and come back to go to dinner. And it'd be like, why am I driving all the way to Northridge to go to dinner
so far
when
away.
I'm literally here already?
Right.
So then at one point, I started just bringing clothes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just just having an extra set of clothes in my dressing room, and then it'd be like, oh, we can go have dinner. And then I went, what? You know what, dude?
Yeah.
You grown.
Yeah.
You're making
Get
some
your own
pretty
space.
good money,
Yeah.
right? Kind of hard to bring girls back to your parents' house as an adult. I went, yeah, guys. So I moved right over here in Toluca Lake.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what kind of brought me to this area.
Right.
And then a year later, I bought my first house, which was up off of Barham.
Right.
So I overlooked the back lot of Universal Studios.
Oh, wow.
So it
Is that
was,
where you guys shot Fresh? Where'd you guys shoot the show?
We shot 3 different spots. We not Universal. We shot at KTLA.
Right.
Which is now like the Netflix
Correct, yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
We were at Sunset Gower,
Been
and
there.
then we went to NBC Studios.
Okay.
which is now the Burbank Studios,
Yeah, Burbank, yeah.
which is weird because the Burbank Studios is now Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that's such a trip.
So it all changed through the
shifted.
years. Yeah, it's like
CBS Radford might be the only one that never was touched.
that's the only one that's still kind of
the
the same.
original.
Yeah.
That was Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld
Yeah.
was CBS
Seinfeld
Radford?
did Radford. That was there. A Different World was there.
Right.
They had I mean,
It's kind of
everything's been there.
Look, I know this is a long time out of your past, but do you ever is there ever a moment when you go back past a stage that you shot at that hits you a little bit? Do you ever feel it anymore or no?
A little bit.
Sometimes.
A little bit. Yeah, it's the special ones, right? So when I did Silver Spoons, at Universal. And stage 44 was that stage, right?
Yeah.
That if I go to the lot and I get to go in the back lot and I drive, if I'm in my car, I'll make a little detour if I'm going to a meeting or something
Yeah.
to drive past 44 because like we played football in there was like a big driveway runway there that you'd throw the football around and it was I just did this thing for live in front of a studio audience with the Norman Lear that Jimmy Kimmel did, and I did commercials for it, and it was Different Strokes, Who's the Boss on one stage. It was Facts of Life and Silver Spoons on the other stage.
Oh my God.
And they would flip the audience. So they literally, the audience was 3 sections, and they would
Right.
just turn it around, and it would be set up for the other show.
Wow.
Right? So we would shoot on Thursday, Friday, and Facts of Life shot on Monday, Tuesday.
Mm.
And the same thing was for Different Strokes. So it was really that's kind of the only stages that really like bring that memory back.
Sure.
Right?
That was such powerful television. That's insane to think of how huge those shows were.
I mean, that was I think the prime of sitcom television.
Network television, yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you could go all the way back to, the Jeffersons and All in the Family and
Even
all of
still.
that. But it grew into the 80s.
I think in the 80s and the 90s, that 15 to 20 year chunk of when television became must-see TV, must-watch
Right.
appointment viewing, literally what I grew up with, it was so big. There wasn't one person on earth that didn't know about it. And
Right.
now there's people that tell me about shows and I'm like, I've never heard of that. And they're like, they're on their 8th season.
Yes.
I'm like, what? I have no idea what that is.
But that's also because how television has changed, right?
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
television now is 150,000 stations.
Yeah.
Right? It's
never ending.
When I was doing Silver Spoons, there was 3.
ABC, NBC, CBS.
That's it.
Yeah, it's wild.
Right? So during Fresh Prince is when Fox came into play.
Right.
Right? And then you had WB and UPN, which
CW
turned into the CW, right?
Right.
Like that's kind of how it grew. But back then, it was 3 stations.
That was it.
So that's it. That's what you got. If you're going to watch TV, those were your stations. And, eventually, HBO came in and that was cable and you had to pay for that. The average everyday person, they were just watching those 3 channels.
Yeah.
And that was it. I always laugh about the numbers and ratings of shows today
right.
because Silver Spoons used to get a 27 rating.
Dude, explain for people that don't know what that means. That's so funny.
Like, you get to stay on the air forever.
Ever.
Right now,
Yeah.
if you pull a 2,
Yeah.
you have won.
Yeah, you beat the system.
You are going to stay on the air and make a lot of money if you make a 2.
27?
It was a
27?
27.
That's it's not even fathom. That's almost like the way that my dad used to talk about how Carson was like, if somebody was on Carson, there wasn't a human breathing that didn't see or know who that human was the next day.
Absolutely.
It was like
Absolutely.
every human who walked the earth was like, "Did you see that guy?
You
on
see
Carson?
Carson last night?
Everybody's
Watch Carson? If you were
unreal.
able to stay up late enough to watch Carson, and I was at the end of his run, I was able to stay up late enough, like, there was nothing bigger than Carson.
Right. And that transition became of late night TV and fandom is what I think led to this love for this sitcom world of characters and
Yes.
and look, building great characters was part of that world. I'm not saying they don't do it now on television. I'm not one of these guys that's like back in the day it was, but
No, I'll say it.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
say it.
Do
I'll
it.
go ahead and say it.
Do
yeah,
it.
They listen. Today's television is not. It's the structure of the way in which they build them. They're not real people.
Right there. Yeah.
They're caricatures of people.
Mm.
Right? They're an idea, not a person.
Ah.
Like you don't tell me somebody that's on TV right now that you go, yeah, I know that guy in real life.
That's tough because I don't really watch a lot of. I mean, I know that sounds corny, but like I can't name a show that I'm watching right now
Because those people don't really exist.
Yeah.
Because they don't connect to you.
Yeah.
Right? There is, in my opinion, and don't get me wrong, it's still, there's wonderful shows on television, but they're not real life. Back then it was dealing with real stuff that was going on in the world, but they did it through comedy. Right? Like today, All in the Family would be a bad show.
Oh yeah. I mean, they would get clipped.
Right?
I mean, yeah, they'd be
like it wouldn't exist, but they were dealing with topics that nobody dealt with.
Right.
Now when they deal with topics that nobody's dealt with, you can't air them on regular television.
Right, they're scared to talk. Well, I mean, it's funny about All in the Family. People that I loved that show. The idea of race and class was. I mean, the Jeffersons did the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was so real and so honest, but done with so much heart and soul. There was never a moment where it felt contrived. And unfortunately, just one dumb orange man's opinion, I just think a lot of times when they do heart on TV about a real issue, it feels contrived. It feels trite or fake, and you're like, you're not really saying, I think, what you want to say because you're scared someone's going to get pissed off.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, as a comedian, you can't do comedy anymore.
You can do comedy, and you have to be present enough with you have to be comfortable enough with what you're doing to not care when they get upset about what you're going to do.
Which means you can't do comedy.
No, see, I'm telling you. I see, but
in my opinion.
Well, here's what it is to me. I'll say this for me, because I have to defend this side of it is, you can say whatever you want to say. There's an idea out there that's like, you can't say you can say anything you want to say. You either have to be famous enough or built strong enough where you're confident in what you're putting out, that you don't care that the backlash is going to come. Because it is going to come.
Right.
You just have to be strong enough to push through it.
And I hear you, but that to me is you can't do it. So
what
you're saying is
I know what you're saying.
Right. You're saying that, yes, absolutely, you can do anything you want to do. It's your stage, it's your mic.
Right.
Go ahead and do it. But you're probably going to deal with some stuff if you deal with a topic that's going to offend somebody.
There is consequences, for sure.
Well, I remember comedy being, we're going to make fun of everybody.
All the time.
And that's what it is.
Right.
It's a great, like the idea of comedy to me has always been, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, it's always been, we are going to hold a mirror up to the world, and we're going to make fun of something that people won't normally talk about.
Right.
And we're going to do it in a way that we laugh, and at times we might be laughing at them, but we're going to open the idea up for discussion.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it through comedy. There were so many things that I remember as a young man that like I'd watch, a ton of comedians, and I'd be like, wow, that is so funny, but it's so true. Now it's like, wow, that is really funny. I can see where they're going.
Yeah. I think,
you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
And that's not fair to everybody, because not everybody's doing that, right? And I don't go and sit in the stand-up in the comedy clubs and watching everybody do their stage show. You're watching kind of the bigger stuff. But it's like, you shouldn't get in trouble for saying something that is true to someone.
In here, we pour whiskey.
Guys, I've spoken pretty candidly on this show about mental health and getting mental health help, and I got to tell you, BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp is one of my favorites. If there's something interfering with your happiness and you're looking for help to achieve those goals, BetterHelp is going to assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can communicate in under 48 hours, which is incredibly fast. And it's not a crisis line or a self-help line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They got a broad range of expertise, and the service is available for clients all over the big, beautiful, water-filled globe. You can log into your account anytime from anywhere and speak to your counselor, and you're going to get timely and thoughtful responses. Again, I'm a big proponent of this. I do think that online counseling is great for me. Don't know if it's going to be great for you, but it's great because you don't have to walk into some weird, uncomfortable, cold office in an office park and sit in a room with bright fluorescent lights and feel weird while other people are looking at you and looking at their shoes like a dog who just pooped in the house. It's great for me, and I do like it. And if you want to read some of the testimonials before you sign up, go to BetterHelp, HELP.com/reviews. and you can read all the people who have experienced it. And go to BetterHelp.com/whiskey. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/whiskey. Join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. This podcast, of course, is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Whiskey Ginger listeners are going to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/whiskey. Again, 10% off your first month. Try it out. Why not? At BetterHelp.com/whiskey. Manscaped, ho, ho, ho for the holidays. If you plan on being a ho, ho, ho for the holidays, you got to get Manscaped. You got to get that hygiene on point, my friend. Manscaped got so much stuff out there right now. Body wash, 2-in-1 shampoo and condition. Make it clean, then make it smooth. It's time to give yourself the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season, and the skin on your balls. Your hygiene routine will never be the same. Go to manscaped.com/whiskey for 20% off plus free shipping. I got to tell you something. I've been using Manscaped products. Their 2-in-1 shampoo, I like. It smells so good. And it's really great. Honestly, they've got some great stuff in this package. The Lawnmower 4.0 is that electric trimmer with that proprietary advanced skin-safe technology, that no-nick nut technology, my friends. It's also waterproof because I like to shave my nuts in the shower. I know I'm sure you do too, who wants to shave when it's just regular and you're getting hair all over the ground. You try to do it over the toilet, it doesn't work because the pubes get everywhere. It's impossible. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past, man. You don't got to do that. You don't want your pubes to look like Santa's beard, all right? Clean it up, dude. You're a new age Santa. It's a new world. Also, the hygiene bundle comes with a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers. Keep your junk feeling fresh all day. Manscaped has so many great products that I got to tell you, you have to try this out because they know what they're doing, man. They're making the all-in-one kit for dudes to feel comfortable and sexy. And I've been using Manscaped products now for years, and I've never had a nick yet. They also got a nice little light so you can see the little crevasses that you're getting to get the hair off your ball sack. Do yourself a favor for this holiday season. Get 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com/whiskey. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com/whiskey. Clean up your candy cane this year with Manscaped.
Ginger. I like gingers.
Well, I always say words. You can't get me for words.
Right.
Behavior is a different thing.
I
If
agree.
somebody does behavior that is wrong, I understand behavior because now we're getting more into the social world of behavioral mistakes. But if you say something and it makes people mad, I have no patience for it anymore. I mean, I've never cared. To be very honest, I think my fans know, and like, I've always been kind of me, and I'm unmistakably me. And if you're not aware of my sarcasm, that's on you, man.
Right.
Clearly, I don't mean it. If you really think I meant it, do you think I'd be shouting it through an amplified microphone?
Right.
Do you really think so? If I really had hatred for something or disdain, or I really wanted like somebody to like hurt or marginalize a group or a person, do you really think I'd preach it through a microphone? That's nuts. That's insane.
Well, here's the thing.
I would say it in a room where they really do it. That's what they do in a small,
You
sad
wouldn't
room.
say it.
Right.
Right? Like, so I get the other side of
Right.
like, there are people who are actually saying what they think.
Sure.
Right? But you're not saying that. I know you.
I'm a comedian.
You're a comedian and you're doing great, funny comedy.
Right.
No, that you're saying something that is going to make someone think and
Right.
then laugh.
Right.
Right. That's what good comedians do. There are bad ones who say exactly what they mean,
Right.
and their essence is of hate. But call those ones out.
Yeah,
But
and
don't
it's
call them
rare.
out on the joke. Call them out on who they are.
Right, on their behavior. Right, that's what I'm saying. Behavior, not words, behavior.
Right. It's jokes, guys. We gotta laugh.
We got to let it ride.
We gotta let it, because there are topics that we can't discuss until we can laugh at them.
We have to make fun. Well, look, I mean, like, I think when people know your heart, and it's really easy for an audience to gauge, like, your real, true heart. For some reason, they can see right through if it's really who you are or if this is obviously a joke. And, like, last night on stage, I said, you know, when is it too soon for me to delete the black square off Instagram? Are people going to get mad? I mean, I do think Black Lives still matter, but I do want to get rid of that square. It's just taking up this weird space on my Instagram. And it's so dark. And of course, people are laughing, but a piece of them are like, is this okay? It's like, clearly I'm joking about the idea of a black square on Instagram.
Right.
This isn't real. This is all a fantasy. So if they know my heart and they can just feel that, like, it's not an attack on Black Lives Matter. It's an attack on the idea of posting a black square.
Right.
Then you know where I'm coming from. If you can't figure it out, that's that's on you. That's how I feel about everything.
What I always like to say is then take a second, pause.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't we all have a pause button in our life?
Not anymore.
Right? We need to pause for a second sometimes and go, wait, hold on. Let me do some research on the guy.
Right. Instead of throwing a rock.
Right. Immediately. How could you say that? Black Lives Matter is important. Say, no. I didn't talk about Black Lives Matter. I talked about the square.
I was joking about the square.
It's a square. it's a symbol on Instagram. Right? Like, it's different. It's like if someone got mad that they got the blue check.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that means he hates all celebrities and important people. No. I'm saying, why do we have to differentiate?
Yeah. It's just a thing.
Right?
It's a thing to joke about.
It's comedy. We got to laugh. We got to be able to talk about everything. And I feel like if we can start to do that, and I'm now taking this to a different place, but if we could start to do that, then I think we can start to heal as a country.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, if we can start to feel a little bit better about how chaotic everything is, and we need to start laughing about it and shitting on it, because honestly, it's just getting old. Fear and sadness is getting old.
The idea of not being allowed to do anything, not being allowed to say anything, and if you say something, you're offending somebody.
Yeah.
It's like I've gotten caught where it's like, in an interview, I say something and people get offended. And you're like, first, let's start by, I wasn't talking to you.
Right.
I don't remember saying your name at blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like I didn't say you. I wasn't talking to you. So why are you commenting like I've hurt your feelings when I've said something that is my experience?
Right.
Even if it's real, even if I was having a real and I wasn't telling jokes, it's like, this is my experience. Why are we offended by someone's experience if they don't like what that person is experiencing?
Yeah, that's odd too. Like somebody said I think I saw some article popped up about you saying something about interracial relationships.
Yes.
And then people were clapping back saying, they didn't understand you talking about your experiences. Really what it was is people were like, who's not supportive and da-da-da. But all I kept seeing when I saw that article was like, that's just how he feels about his life. That's how you feel about your life. It's weird for someone to go, you can't feel that way. You're not supposed to feel that way.
You're not allowed to feel that way.
Why?
And if you do feel that way, you're certainly not allowed to speak about it.
Right. That's so strange.
And I'm like,
I didn't understand that.
It doesn't make any sense. Well, what was really funny was how many people actually said on my social media exactly what I spoke about.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting. You're saying what I said.
Right.
You're giving me what I just said happens to me, and you're saying it in a demeaning way because you don't like the fact that I said it as you're saying it.
It is wild to think about when people live these lives and America gets to, because look, you're very famous. You've been famous for so long. People get to feel for some reason like they know you better than you know you.
Right.
They're like, I know you. I know who you are. I know what you are to me.
Right.
So then they just define who you are in general, and you're like you and I are friends. We know each other well.
Right.
It's so funny to think it just happens naturally because people on the outside. Well, if somebody says to me, "Oh, you play golf with Al. You're friends with Al. Is he blah blah blah?" And you're like, "Gosh, I just think people don't. They just assume that's all who you are.
Right.
Even if they get a chance to meet you, they still go, he's still who I think he is in my mind."
Well, and that is, it happens all the time with the idea of people coming up to me calling me Carlton.
Yeah, sure. That's got to be exhausting.
Like it's that is the indicator to me of like, oh, so you don't really care to know me.
No, yeah, you're just a thing for them.
This is in there for you.
Right.
And I will treat those people differently. And I don't mean negatively or positively. I just go, okay, you're that category of you don't want to know who a person is. You just want to believe your own lie.
Correct.
Right? The lie in your head that's who he is. Right? It's like they can't. I've had people literally say to me, hey, Carlton. I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? Hey, my name is Alfonso. Nah, you Carlton.
No, man.
You're like, okay, so I'm your biggest fan, Carlton. You know that's an oxymoron, right? You can't actually be my biggest fan if you're saying my character's name, right?
Right.
But now I will say, on the other side of that look, that means that people loved something so much that they can't even get it out of their head.
Yeah.
Because that's how into it they are.
Right.
Right? But that's why I say I treat them differently, because I recognize, all right, cool, man, nice to meet you, man. We're going to have some fun and be silly and all the rest. And I'm not no longer am I offended by it.
Right.
Because I never understood it before. I was like, dude, my name's Alfonso. I told you my name's Alfonso, but you don't want to call me Alfonso.
Right.
What the hell is that? Like, that's rude.
Yeah. What age was it, do you think that, like, how old were you when Fresh Prince ended?
Ended, I was 24.
Jesus. So, Jesus Christ, as a child. That's when I first moved to LA.
Yeah, and I was done.
Oh my God.
I was done with that series. I was over with it.
But to me, it's like, that is such a, you're out at that age, you're out running around, everyone's seeing you, everybody knows you. There is that point when it gets so exhausting to be called that character's name over and over and over again. What was kind of the end game shift mentally where you're like, okay, I'm going to handle these people this way now because I can't do it anymore. At first, you kind of got to be sweet about it.
Yes.
You do the thing, and then...
Well, it went through many different phases. Where it was sweet and ha 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 to angry to what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you offending me? Right? Like, where I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Right? And I would say the reason why I went through that period was because imagine for a second that you've done a job so well that they tell you can't be anybody else for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's wild.
But you can't do what you love to do anymore because we only see you as that guy. And then people are coming up to you going, yeah, you're right. You're never going to work again because I only see you as Carlton. You take a personal offense to that.
Of course.
Right? So it went through that phase. And then eventually, weird story, I went on a bus trip with Joey Fatone and a bunch of hooligans. I call them hooligans because they're just the greatest, craziest group of guys ever. And this was maybe 12, 15 years ago. And we went on a bus trip to baseball games.
Like just toured the country on...
Toured for 2 weeks.
Wow.
On a bus, and we just drove to baseball games.
How fun, man.
And we'd go to the baseball game, hang out at the baseball game, go out in the city, get on a bus, drive to another baseball game.
That's wild.
Right? And Joey and his manager Joe were the only two people I really knew. Their dads came with, but those were my two friends. Everybody else was just their friends and guys that they knew. And on that trip, I had a brand new perspective that took me out of Hollywood for a second and put me in regular world America, and I got to experience my fame through their eyes.
That's wild.
And all of a sudden I went, oh, they're not offending. They're complimenting.
Correct, yeah.
This is because there's a love. There is a deep affection for that character that made them go, wow, okay, you know what? Made me go, wow, this is nothing but love. So I can't be mad at them. I can't look at them negatively. I have to recognize that they're just giving me love.
Right.
And from that point forward, my life changed because I no longer harbored that anger toward blaming every individual for the lack of what was happening in my career because of something that Hollywood did.
Right.
Hollywood decided that, hey, these people only see him as Carlton, so we're never going to hire him as anything but Carlton. They could have done anything.
Yeah.
Right? We could have changed the narrative if people were willing to change the narrative. But they were like, oh, well, we're done. That wasn't their fault.
No.
They just loved something that they were given.
Right.
There it is.
Well, but also there is credit to be given on the idea that, look, man, it's impossible to make a character or to build or character or develop and become a character so rich and beloved that it kind of, overshadows anything you could ever do. It's almost like it was so, it's so strong and so well known that it's tough to find a way to get away from it again.
Right.
That you're like, it's so big. It was so big.
Yeah, it was. And it was at a time when people who watched television, there were a lot of people watching.
Yeah.
Today, that can't happen.
It's just different. Yeah, it's different. To now, it's I love. People will say like, I love the show Succession, and there's
Right.
characters on the show that they really love. Okay,
Right.
that's probably a good example of what we said before. Cousin Greg, I've talked about him on the show before. Nicholas Braun,
Okay.
a great actor. He is a real person. He is so good on that show because those other people you're meant to hate. You're supposed to loathe that
Right.
family.
Right.
He's
I just started watching it, so
oh
I'm
my
like, in.
God, he's
Right.
so good. It's just, I think he's a brilliant actor. But again, when you speak about these shows in culture today, oftentimes you speak about the show, right? Like they talk about Ted Lasso.
Right.
Okay, this is another example. I
Right.
think Sudeikis does a great job of making a real guy, but it is a show.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much all about the show, and it's a community. Brett Goldstein, it's hard nowadays to make a character so iconic and kind of so like culturally memorable.
Right.
So like Ted Lasso, like Sudeikis did a great job. I think that will kind of remain in the social zeitgeist, but
But I don't think the actors will remain as those characters.
of course not. No, they don't have
right?
to anymore.
It's that's no longer going to happen.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the show will always be a part, and when you do something or you pitch a TV show or you're, oh dude, this show is a Ted Lasso mixed with this.
Right, correct.
Right? And so it'll always be that show, those people, those characters, but it won't be the actors.
Right,
Back then, the actors were the show.
right.
It was a different time,
Yeah.
right? Like you couldn't imagine Gary Coleman not being Arnold,
Yeah, I know.
right?
I know.
Like it was a different time.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could even take someone as famous back then as Bill Cosby. And Bill Cosby was doing Bill Cosby.
Yeah,
But after the Bill Cosby show ended, people were like, yeah, no, he can't be anybody else.
you're Bill Cosby.
He's Bill Cosby.
Right.
He's like, yes, I am Bill Cosby. They're like, no, but you're Bill Cosby.
You're Dr.
You
Huxtable.
Dr. Huxtable.
Right.
You're actually not Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
a very different. Will was probably one of the last of that time to be able to get out,
And transcend and
right?
Yeah.
And it's because he was able to do it while doing the show. And we had very specific things that we started to do to allow him to be able to break that. And he would break the fourth wall in episodes. And that changed it for him because he was the only person on that show that wasn't the character,
Right.
right? It was, hey, I'm over here with you, but these people are real.
In here, we pour whiskey.
Hey, it's Christmas week, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has a gift that'll certainly put you in the holiday spirit. New customers can bet just $5. That's all you got to have is $5, a Lincoln in your pocket, on any NBA team and win 150 in free bets. They're victorious. It's a great way to put some extra jingle in your pocket. My friends, if Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, your Christmas can still be merry. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. I got to tell you, if you've never used DraftKings before, I don't know what you're doing in the world of sports betting. They're that official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. So whether you're watching LeBron James do his thing or Chris Paul shake him up in the desert, and you're looking to put some money down on these sneaky little teams who are going to sneak their way into the playoffs and make some noise, you got to use DraftKings. It is the only place to put down some money. And if you're a new customer, hey man, you bet that $5 and win 150 in free bets if you're victorious. That's a pretty good deal, I got to tell you. Download that DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use that promo code whiskey, as it were. Just bet $5 on any NBA team and win $150 in free bets if you're victorious. That's promo code whiskey this Christmas week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. You got to be 21 or older. You know that. New Jersey, Indiana, or PA only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Can't do more. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Go ahead and do yourself a favor. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you got one. WARBY Parker. You may have heard of them. They were founded with a rebellious spirit and a lofty goal to create boutique-quality eyewear at a revolutionary price point, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. WARBY Parker is committed to providing an exceptional vision care online and in stores. It sounds Irish. Warby Parker. It's Warby Parker. There goes a Warby Parker. Warby Parker's incredible. My old lady has Warb Parks, and I got Warb Park sunglasses. She uses the glasses because she's got Coke bottle. She can't see. She can't see a foot in front of her. Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. The glasses are starting at $95. That's pretty cheap. It's a pretty good price, including prescription lenses. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. It's pretty cool. You go on the website, you can see what they look like on your face. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. Ships free and include a prepaid return shipping label. Come on, man. What do you have to lose? Try out 5 pairs and throw them back if you don't like any of them? Don't let your FSA or HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. You can try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free in your house at warbyparker.com/whiskey, warbyparker.com/whiskey. You got to just take that quiz, and you can decide how they look, fit, feel, personalize your way of wearing them. And I got to tell you, they are incredible. It's an incredible deal. And it's if you're somebody that needs prescription eyeglasses or just sunglasses or contacts, you got to go over there and try that Warby Parker. If you've been to the stores, the physical storefronts are beautiful. They do a great job over there of helping you out. Different styles and colors that match your face, whether you got a big head, like some of my friends, like Bobby Lee's big fat head, or you got a little skinny peanut head like mine. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at the comfort of your own home at warbyparker.com/whiskey. That's warbyparker.com/whiskey.
Ginger. I like gingers.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right, though. What you just said was wild because I didn't notice it at the time, but he was kind of building this other thing simultaneously at the last half of that show to become this other thing.
Right.
You like kind of were. I remember watching it kind of happen as he exploded and then once he gets into films,
then it all changed anyway.
Right.
But once you're in film, it's different.
Yeah.
You're not a character in film.
Right. You get to be that. You get to transform. You
Right.
get to do this other thing
Because you're not a character. You're a movie star.
Right. Yeah, that's
right?
true.
On TV, you're real. And that's where reality television killed a lot of people in television.
Yeah.
Because, well, TV is real. Movies, that's a magical world.
Mm-hmm.
I left my house. I got in the car. I stood in line.
I went to a room.
Right. I went to this big room. I sat there with other people that I don't know. It was a show.
Right.
Right? It was make-believe.
It's fantasy, yeah.
Right? I'm on my couch. I just got done watching the evening news.
Right.
I
Yeah.
saw these murders that happened over on Figueroa. And then, you're on.
Yeah.
Where is the separation?
Right.
Right?
That's true.
So it's hard to come out of television. Now you can because there's so many channels.
Right.
Right? But back when there were just a few channels, it was like, no, TV is real. That's why all of these reality shows existed and became so popular, was because, no, TV's real. TV is real life.
Yeah.
Not this make-believe.
Right. It's not this fantasy. Tell me this. You said something. I ran over it fast, though. Your old man was a corrections officer.
Yes.
Did you think, was he super disciplined to you guys? Was it like that?
We were mostly disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Tough dad? Like a tough dad?
a real dad,
Yeah.
right? Like he's not going to tell you fake things
Yeah.
and, soft lies to make you feel good about yourself, right?
Mhm.
You were going to be who you were,
Right.
right? And you were going to do the things the way you were going to do them, and it was either going to be the right way or the wrong way.
Was he a military guy or no?
He was in the military also.
Yeah.
So he was in the Air Force. And, but, growing up for me, he was everything I needed. And I say that like lovingly, right? Like he
Mhm.
was everything I needed to have, construction, right? I needed to be just, this is my structure. This is what I'm able to do. This is right and wrong. And knowing it allowed me in a time when you also got to remember that, yes, there's still craziness today, but if you go into the 80s, right, like Todd Bridges was also on the next stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, here's a guy who ended up, going to trial for murder, right?
Crazy.
And as an actor, right? So having my dad recognizing like, yes, this is make-believe world, but the real world is still here. And those lines being very hard in pavement, not in the sand. It was a real line.
Yeah.
You knew what not to cross.
Right.
You knew, that you might, experience stuff, but you weren't going to ever go across that line. And you knew what that line was, and it wasn't going to happen. And he became my manager. So he also, it was like about how we worked through our career and worked through, business and for me going to work and being responsible and all of those things that you get out of the military and out of being a police officer, all those things. My grandmother was a police officer.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
She was a police officer at Rikers Island in New York. And so,
damn, Grandma was tough.
Like
you
no
gotta be
games.
tough, bro.
Yeah, no games. Right. And so
Rikers Island is like unequivocally one of the toughest prisons in the world, and your grandma's just out there kicking it.
I would say Sing Sing, where my dad was way tougher.
Tougher, right?
But people know Rikers because
the
it's
reputation
right
of
there.
Rikers,
Reputation of Rikers, right? And maybe at the time when she was there, it was probably extremely tough, right? Because we're talking, the 50s, right? So. My dad was a very important part of my childhood and my growth and my work ethic. I don't think I'm where I'm at without him. Just I wouldn't even be close.
When you say that, what always fascinated me again, because I never growing up in Chicago and I was always wanting to be in the business was a secret of mine. I mean, my parents knew, but I was so embarrassed for other people to know. Mm-hmm. And my parents have zero connection to the industry. They, ignorance like a rude word, but like their ignorance is strong.
Right.
They don't understand it, but they're proud. They're happy about it.
Of course.
But it was always wild to me when I knew kids. Like I have a good friend, Michael Angarano, who's a phenomenal actor. His family moved out here from New York.
Right.
His dad is like a Brooklyn guy, and like they moved out here for Michael's career. And I was always fascinated by the families that kind of did this thing that you're doing, and then became a part of the business side of it. Is there any muddy water to that? Like when your dad is your manager, when you were an adult by the time he was your manager, or were you still a kid?
I was a kid.
Okay.
When he was my manager, and then took me through Fresh Prince and through many years after that.
Was that ever tough then? Of like, this is my business partner, also my father, also my...
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all for me.
Wow.
And it wasn't because our relationship lines were very clear. Right? Like I knew who I was talking to when I was talking to that person. So I knew when I was talking to my manager, I knew when I was talking to my dad, and I knew when I was talking to one of my friends. Right? Because he was like a friend also.
I feel like you're lucky to have that relationship.
No.
That sounds
amazing.
Incredibly unique.
Amazing.
Right.
Very lucky and so appreciative of it. Right? Like it would be times when it was like, no, Dad, you're wrong. We're talking about business, right? And I think it's this, and I think it's that, and no, I think we should do this, and I think it should be that, and I think that's a mistake. And I'm like, Dad, you're wrong. You're out of your mind on that one, right? Okay, no. And that conversation would end. It was like, all right, now go clean your room. Okay, Dad.
Clean up, pick up all that crap in your room.
Yep. Okay, Dad, got it. Yep.
And his father, your dad. So you said you're Portuguese, but you're Trinidad.
Trinidad, yeah.
You're Trinidad is what you told me.
My family, both my mom and dad's side both came through Trinidad. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you go through, the name and the heritage and all of that, I always like to say, black people didn't get off the continent of Africa by themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
It's a strange.
I gotta look it up. Look it up.
You might find what I'm saying true. So sometimes those names became their names.
Sure.
And sometimes there was a mixing of the people, and right. So that's really what happened for me, right? There was a mixing of, my African side is Nigerian, right? And then I have absolute Portuguese from Portugal connection, and then but I'm a mutt, right? I've got actually Irish and British,
my people,
right? I've got. I mean, when I did the 23andMe, I'm 22%. From the Isles of Great Britain.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's, which is why my kids could have blue eyes. Right? Because my kids came out with blue eyes. I was like, I got to look through this. Okay, there's something
staring
wrong
at your
here.
wife
This
like, what's going on?
What's happening
What's
here?
going on?
But yeah, I mean, but I'm just ultimately a mutt, right? So I mean, I've got a large percentage of obviously Nigerian, but a large percentage of South European, which is the Portuguese side of
Right.
it, and then I've got actually a larger percentage from the British, right? And so
bastards.
they move some people around the world, right?
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
the Brits and the Spaniards and the Portuguese, that's kind of where a lot of people moved around, and
Sure.
so there's always a percentage somewhere in that, unless obviously there were people who stayed straight African all the way, but I happen to be a big old mutt, right? And so my family was from Trinidad. My mom, she's the first of her side of the family to come to the U.S.
Oh.
My dad was born in the U.S., but my grandparents on my dad's side both came from Trinidad.
Wow.
So
Your
it's,
grandfather was famous, right? Wasn't your
he
granddad
was
famous?
Yeah, well, he was famous in that world. He was a calypso singer.
Yeah, you told me that one time. I thought you mentioned something because I said something you were singing on the when we were playing one day, and I was like, oh, Al's voice isn't bad, and you had said something that your granddad was a
Yeah, he was the Lord Hummingbird, and he was a calypso singer and traveled the West Indies and the Eastern Coast.
That's
East Coast of
nuts.
America
By
doing,
himself, or he was
he was him. He was his own thing, and
Wow.
and, he had a band and all that. But
but it was just his group.
It was his
Yeah.
thing. To be honest with you, the voice doesn't come from that side. The voice comes from my mom.
Really?
My mom has the most beautiful voice I've ever heard.
She does.
She is the most shy person.
She doesn't want to show you.
She would never. She wouldn't. I've never actually heard my mom sing while looking at her.
Right. Oh, dude, she sings in the other room, and you always heard her.
So the greatest stories, once we moved out here, we would wake up on Sunday mornings and my mom would make this thing called bake, which is a Trinidadian dish that is basically bread, but it's like the most amazing bread patty that you could eat. And so every Sunday morning she would make it before we all woke up. But she'd be in the kitchen singing. And my bedroom was right on the other side of the wall. So I would wake up to my mom, just the most angelic voice ever.
Would she be singing Trinidadian songs?
All kinds of stuff.
Right.
She would sing some calypso. She'd sing some, Barbra Streisand. She was, everything, right? But I would get up, but I wouldn't get them out of the room
Because she didn't see you.
because I
then
wanted
she'd
to just
stop.
keep listening.
No, that's kind of beautiful, Al. You're making my heart hum. Because you'd sit in bed and want to
I
hear.
would sit in bed and just want to hear her sing.
it's comforting,
Because
yeah.
obviously, like, there was a piece of me that connected to it, right? Because I sang,
Right.
So there was this, like, wow, that's where it's coming from. That's where that voice is.
Wow.
That's where the music is really there. Now, the music and the rhythms and the beats and all of that are part of my, my dad's side with my grandfather. But the voice aspect is just pure mom.
Wow.
Just,
The feeling you gave me just now when you said that is it's wildly warm. I can almost imagine you sitting in bed, not wanting to get up. Also, because when you're a kid and the quickness to get out of bed doesn't exist unless it's a holiday or when you get older. And then you get older, you're like, I gotta get up.
Yeah, I gotta move.
But when you're a kid and you do that thing where you're lazily half in and out of sleep, and if the sun's coming in the window and the smell of bake and your mom singing, I wish I could transport to that feeling.
Yeah.
Right? That moment.
Yep.
Because I know what you mean when you say that of like, my mom used to, I love getting scratched. It's big in our family. We're weirdos. I love getting my back scratched. It's my favorite. My grandmother loves scratching backs. My mom,
wife loves it.
oh, it's my favorite, man.
Yep. I got plenty of, but baby, can you? All right.
Yeah, I love
got
it. And my mom would scratch my back sometimes in the morning if I couldn't get up. And I would just keep faking like I didn't want to get up because I wanted to keep getting my back scratched because the blankets are so warm. It's that perfect moment when you're like, the bed is at its peak.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's the blankets are tucked so perfectly.
Yep.
But I remember those moments, and those
You
are
can move your foot to the cold spot when you needed it.
Oh, just a little bit to the left. Those etch into my mind. Those kind of
Yes.
things
But
etch
those
into
are
your
the,
mind.
Those are the moments that I believe, like, create the rest of your life, your journey, right? Like, that plays a role somewhere in a lot of the things you probably do every day.
Oh yeah, I believe
right?
that. Yeah.
Like you get out of bed, but every morning when you get out of bed, you're probably going, "Oh, I wish I can get a back scratch."
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right?
I don't ask my wife. She'll be pissed off because I'm always like, come on.
Right.
She's
So,
like, get out of here with that.
But that's the thing that like it stays with you, right?
Right.
It stays with you. And that hearing, like I am a bigger fan of love songs than I am of up tempo.
Like what's your kind of ultimate playlist, and like what do you love? Like what's your go-tos?
Anything R&B, soul. with like, ballads. That's my like if I'm gonna listen to something, that's what I'm
do you
putting
like
on.
Percy Sledge? Is this something that you like, or like
No, but obviously my generation, I'm gonna go Johnny Gill. I'm gonna go Jeffrey Osborne. I'm gonna go Luther Vandross.
Yeah,
right?
Vandross is great. Yeah,
do
right.
that, right? But part of that is there's also some of the female singers that I would listen to, right? I mean, obviously Whitney Houston was one, but because of that connection, my mom would always be singing slow songs. So that just feels right.
Right, the soul of it.
Right.
Right,
And
like
then-
Ann Peebles, that like stuff like that where it's very like there's so much. She has a song called
I don't know, Ann.
oh my God, yes you do. You do know Ann Peebles. The song is called, I have to look it up right now because it's going to drive me absolutely, it's going to actually piss me off. So you do know Ann Peebles. Her most famous song was I Can't Stand the Rain, which of course Missy Elliott did sample.
Right, yes.
But I'm going to tear your playhouse down. Oh my God. I can't play it because we'll get licensed.
Right, yes,
but
right.
you got to listen to this.
I will listen to it.
And Trouble, Heartache, and Sadness is a great song by her too. But yeah, Missy Elliott owes her. I am such I'm a hip hop freak. When I was a kid, it like consumed my life.
Right.
So what I did when I became, a teenager, I started to get into the depths of music and learning where the samples came from. I became obsessed with that.
Wow.
So that's why that's where I learned about the most. My dad, it's a weird connection. My dad never really liked hip hop because when I was a kid, hip hop was
Very different.
it was just it was also like the gangster rap was becoming so prevalent.
Right.
And my dad never liked it.
Right. Neither did I.
But oddly enough, my dad liked if I showed him hip hop that Nas, something that had obvious soul elements.
Yes.
Because my dad loves Carolina Beach music and soul and that kind of vibe.
Right. So when the music turned R&B rap,
Right.
he probably enjoyed it.
Well, he just connected with it a little bit more. He
Right.
just understood it was like because he would say something like, I recognize that background of that song. Like I Can't Stand the Rain, Missy Elliott. It's People's song. It's it's once you start to pick up on those cues, you're like, hey man, we like the same thing a little bit. It's just a little bit different. It's a newer version.
It's our way of doing it.
Right, it's our youthful
It's
way.
our way. I got into rap before it was gangster rap.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Because I'm older than you, but like it to me it was African Bambaataa.
Oh,
right.
love.
It was
Still love.
It was all of that old school rap that went into the LL Cool J's and then eventually Will and all the rest. But once it turned into gangster rap, I was like,
You were out. Yeah. For me as a kid, it was wild because
you're not telling me anything.
Well, to me, what it was here was this. Here was this experience that was being spoken about culturally, but not really from a genuine perspective. And when NWA came out with "Fuck the Police," and that gave breath to Tupac and Biggie and this West Coast, East Coast, I think what it was doing was informing the white world that loved hip hop, like, hey, this is real. Like, it is
Very
real.
true.
It was just
Very
kind of
true.
saying, like, we talk about this, but I'm telling you, this is real. Like, this is real.
Right.
And the riots kind of gave a real window into, as a Chicago kid, Cabrini Green was down the street from where we lived. And it was so wild that it was like, the projects are there, but they were never what looked like out here in terms of what happened in South Central.
Well, it was, that East Coast, West Coast thing, weirdly enough was weird for me because I was like, I'm both.
Yeah. You're both. Yeah, you're
right?
both.
Like I live out here, but I'm from New York. Like, and then I also came from a time when it was like, wait a minute, guys, you're getting this all wrong. We can't fight each other. That's what they want us to do.
Right. Yeah, that's a problem.
Right? Like, if you're going to keep us down, if they're going to keep us down, like, fighting each other is the way to do that.
Yeah, sadly.
We're getting it wrong.
Right.
So the idea of where I was coming from in terms of where I grew up about, coming together and, figuring out a way together to help get out and to make changes and you needed different types of people. I remember one time, like Ice-T, like called me a fake brother and he shouldn't be on TV and he came hard at me, right? And I was like,
Ice-T came at you?
Ice-T?
That's
really?
wild.
Your name is Ice-T, bro. You're really going to come at me hard.
Ice-T is hard, though. Make no mistake.
I'm not saying he's not,
yes.
but it was like, dude, your name is Ice-T, right? Should I have some lemonade with it and call you Arnold Palmer? It just was like, wait a minute, why are you even going that direction of coming at me? And it was like, no, you need me too.
Yeah, you need me too.
Right? Like
that's a great statement.
Your mission, your goal, what you're all about doesn't happen without me also. You're there and you need that voice.
Right.
But I did a play when I was in college, right? And I went for like 1 year before I started Fresh Prince. And I did a play called The Meeting. It was the meeting between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. It's a hypothetical meeting put in this play.
Wow.
And what you really get out of the play was that movement doesn't work if you don't have both.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you don't have Martin, then it's just a military
It's just
action,
Malcolm. Yeah.
right? And it's Malcolm. But if you have just Martin, then we don't need to actually deal with you. Because Malcolm is actually, and his crew, they might shoot you up, right? So it was a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, hey guys, all right, rap world, like I get it that my character isn't this, but I'm from the Bronx. I was born in Harlem. Like that's my character. And yes, I've learned to play golf and I've learned to, right? Because you assimilate into the world that you're living in somewhat.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, the movement needs us both.
Yeah.
Why are you tearing me down?
It's interesting you say that. I think that the truth really is what's unfortunate about culture, Hollywood too. Hollywood says they want diversity, but they tend to want the version that they want most, and they don't want other versions.
Right.
So what bothers me is always saying, like, as if there's one flavor of person, right? There's one kind of black guy.
Right.
There's one kind of Asian female. The idea of all that is inherently flawed. So what bothers me is when these things take place, when you're like, you want everyone to be the same? Which is ironically about the whole thing I'm talking about when somebody says you disagree with something people think and say. You're like, do you want everyone to be just like you?
Right.
That's fucking insane.
Well,
that's
by
not
the way,
normal.
By the way, every horrible person in history was a narcissist.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
What does social media do? It builds narcissists. So what's happening is, they do.
Yeah.
We have algorithms on our phones that make sure that the stories that come up first on our phones are the stories that we want to read about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the stuff that we don't want to see. It's not the other side of the street.
Right.
We're creating a bunch of narcissists all over the world that don't want to see the other side. There is balance.
Yeah.
You have to create balance. And what we're doing constantly, and what we've been doing forever, is constantly separating. Separate. That's how you can control them. That's how you can deal with them. That's how you can manage them. Get everybody together in a room and come up with a consensus. Wow, isn't that power?
Yeah. That to me, that's what I'm blessed and lucky to do for sure for a living. What opens my mind up the most, and why I think I'm the most open-minded, is because I get to travel and meet cultures that are not like my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky, right? Not everyone can do that for a living.
Right.
And I will say, if you have the ability to go see people that aren't like you in other places, do it. It really does show you who you really are, and it opens your brain up to ways that you never thought. It's easy for coastal people to just think the way we think and to stuck in. But when you meet people from, when I go to the South, or I go to the Pacific Northwest, or I go back to the Midwest, the beauty is I get to feel people who think and live differently than me.
No question.
It's great. It makes you more rounded. The idea that you're just going to carve away at your little grouping and thinking and like, well, I don't need to give a fuck everyone else's thoughts and feelings and this is who I am. It's so unhealthy that you're like, you're never going to feel how other people live. You're never going to get what we talked about before, your perspective, how
Right.
Al feels about his journey in his life. You're only going to go, this is how I feel about what Al does in his life.
Right.
You don't know. You
No
didn't even
clue.
talk to him. You didn't even want to know him.
My in-laws are from Iowa.
Oh, that's
My
right. Yeah, you
wife
said
grew
that.
up on a farm,
Right.
right? 2,000-acre farm in Iowa. Went to Northwestern in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm looking at buying a house in Texas, right?
That's right.
I get in my RV and I go to Montana and I go to Florida and I go to Ohio and I go to West Virginia and I go to Idaho and I go to Oregon and I go all over the country, right? I drive all around and I meet people. There is something wonderful about the United States of America. And what's happening is our media and what we put out to the world is only coastal.
Yeah.
And so why does Fox News own the center of this country? Because they're tired of hearing the two sides speak for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You have to speak for everyone.
Yeah.
And there is something wonderful about hearing other people's ideas. Sometimes you're like, I don't like it.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that I hear when I'm in the middle of the country that I'm like, I don't like it. I don't agree. But I now understand.
Yeah, you have to be open to it.
You have to understand people. You have to understand what they're thinking, where they're going, everything about a person.
And their
is
experience.
part of their experience, part of where they're from.
Because look, you're on, you doing AFV after, Bergeron did it for, what did he do it for?
15 years.
Yeah, 15?
Yeah.
Golly, it felt like 1,000. I felt like he...
Well, syndication, it always
right,
expands
because it runs
right?
forever and ever.
Yeah.
But that show touches the most common denominator of Americans, regardless of socioeconomic status and race and
Absolutely.
gender. It's funny.
Right.
Right. So this is the beauty about the idea of that show is it's the thing you care about the most on that show is making people laugh at the things that happen to all of us.
Everyone has experienced something on every episode.
Of course. Everyone has tripped over the dog. Everyone's seen grandma run into the glass window on the patio.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
the moments
Everybody
of that show.
has been kicked or has seen someone kicked in the groin.
Yeah, right.
Things happen.
I would love to take it over under. There should be a Vegas bet on how many hours of getting hit in the penis footage AFV has. I mean, I'd love to know what the over under is.
I would bet it was a lot more early.
Yeah, right.
Like a lot of it was early in the early seasons. We don't play too many of them.
No, but you got it on there.
We get them in there every once in a while.
Yeah.
But when we do, we literally make a note of it.
Yeah, you're like,
And here's one. Here's one for a great memory. Bow, right in the nuts.
Right.
And then you
look.
move on.
I know how TV works. I'm not deaf to it. I know who you are, and I know how TV works. But what's interesting is, I know you're at a place professionally, and they're not going to let you watch some of those submittals that come in. But
Right.
if you wanted to, you could really sit down and go through some of those tapes. Because I told you this early on. I had a offer to work with Vin DeBona,
Right.
the production company, and they were getting in the digital space, and they had said that they had like 100,000 hours of footage that they haven't even reviewed. It wasn't even it
Right.
was stuff they haven't even seen yet.
Right.
And I couldn't wrap my head around how much time has been submitted by Americans that no one's even touched.
And that it's the sad part, but it's true.
It's just there.
Right? Like when the pandemic started,
Yeah.
I think they got something like 10,000 submissions in the first week.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
You're like, to the point where they were like, we have to create a second show. We did a special called
Yeah.
AFV at home where I shot it in my living room and in my backyard
Right.
and did it all myself. But they, got the videos and they were all slightly different, but it was people dealing with the pandemic and what they were doing. And the
Right.
funny videos they were sending in. Because there were so many that were like, we can't show these on AFV.
Yeah.
They're very different in nature, so we have to figure out a way to show these, right? And so they created that. It was a one-off special, but it was because there were so many videos. There were so many people sending videos day after day because, and that's the beauty of this show, and it makes me very proud to be a part of it, is that we've all grown up. Like, tell me a person in America that doesn't know America's Funniest Home Videos.
No, yeah.
They're all under 4.
Right, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're being born. They're born right now.
Right,
They're
right.
they're just being born.
They don't know. They haven't learned of it yet.
Right.
But everybody in this country knows of the show, and whether it's Bob Saget, whether it's Tom, myself, to be part of that kind of legacy is pretty awesome.
No, it's incredible.
Right? Because, I said this to someone the other day, I'm like, I just surpassed Fresh Prince. I've been on AFE longer
Then you're on Prince.
than I was on Fresh Prince.
Wait, what year is this now for you?
This is 7. I did 6 on Fresh Prince.
It is remarkable that Fresh was only 6 because it felt like 15. I felt like my whole
Syndication.
life when I know it felt like my whole life it was on TV.
But that's also what changed in the business. You can't sell a show to syndication as easily anymore
Right.
because there are 100 channels. Why am I watching that old show when I can watch 1,000 other shows that are on networks that are new?
I like
So
the
they-
old episodes. If they're
Me
good enough,
too.
I'm watching them again.
Me too.
I just started Sopranos again from scratch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going through it all over again. Just because
Wow.
I felt like it's a fun undertaking because I've forgotten so much of it.
Right.
Which was and I loved the show, but sitting on airplanes for a living, I was like, well, HBO lets you download to the iPad now. Pff, I was over. I was like, great.
Yes. Yep.
Because I was like, let me download the whole the whole first and second season, watch them, and then I'll keep going from there.
Yeah. But then every time you get to a place where you have real Wi-Fi, you download some more.
I know it's great.
just keep
Honestly, that's the one thing I do love about the internet entertainment is like now I can kind of get back to some of the old stuff I used to love.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see anymore.
Right. You can't see it. Well, if they're not playing somewhere on television, if someone hasn't bought it,
Right.
you can at least get it off the internet and you can watch it. You can enjoy it and pay homage to it.
It's not my business, and we spoke candidly about it. But what I'm curious to know is Fresh Prince still pays after all these years residuals.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
still does.
Yes, I mean it's. I always like to say, I can't stop working because of it.
Right.
Like it's not paying bills,
But
for
it's still
real,
paying.
But it still pays. Yeah,
It's
still,
wild. Like somebody said, Mariah Carey. Billboard said that
Yeah, we
she
talked
makes $1
about that.
million every December, just
Right.
in the month of December,
right
from that song.
from the one song, which is
That's nuts.
which is crazy when you think just. But by the way, she makes $1.2 million all year.
right.
'Cause it's only the month of December. Because if you're playing that song in January, we're like, really?
Don't want to hear it.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
turn
Put
it
it
off.
away.
Right,
Put it away.
Yeah, imagine that in July.
Right. Tell me this about syndication because I'm curious to know, and Americans kind of don't know enough about it. But when you syndicate, every time it syndicates and does like an international sale or something like that,
Right.
is it a re-up of a check and a deal to like do you get a new chunk as it goes overseas?
So I'll explain the whole system
Yeah.
as to how it works, and it's I'll do the short version, but it's essentially a show will sell to a station group,
Mhm.
right? Or individual stations, right? So that's the thing called NAPTY,
Yep.
which is where it's a place where basically the networks and studios will sell shows to the smaller stations. So you sell it, but they sell it every year, right? So
Right.
this group buys it, year 1. Year 2, this group buys it. Year 3, this group buys it,
Mhm.
right? So what happens is every time you sell it to a new group, the numbers go back up. Because every time they air one of the episodes, the second time they air it, it's a lower percentage of your salary.
Right.
So it goes down. And then every time they sell it, it goes back up. And so now when you get through 5 years, right, the first station group has to decide whether they want to buy it again.
Mm.
So it might do that for 5 years and then go back up and then down again.
That's great.
And then back up. So because you have multiple station groups buying it, it never really dips too far and never goes up too far. So just kind of for the last, 20 some odd years, it's just kind of done this.
Wow.
Right? And just, I think at the high, it was probably double of what it is now, but
Mhm.
still it was, it just kind of rode up and down. So if you sell it to, Spain, right? Well, Spanish television, ultimately, they still are just one TV group.
Right.
Right? So you can sell it to a country, but it's just another station.
Right.
So it doesn't go up huge because now it's in Spain, right? But if those ratings are huge, then it
goes
might
up.
go up a little
Wow.
bit, right? So you think about it selling to 100 countries, right? Well, that means it's in 100 television stations. That's a lot of stations.
It's a ton.
Right? So that's where the beauty of a show that can sell internationally is so huge, because in America, you're going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 station groups that are going to buy it, individual stations, but the station groups where they're going out to multiple cities. I used to always say the worst station group to ever buy your show is WGN.
Chicago,
Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Because Chicago, for some reason, that local station aired on cable.
Yeah.
So now you didn't need MTV to buy it. You didn't want WGN to buy it,
Right.
because then nobody else needed to buy it, because everybody could still watch it. So some of the bigger ones you were fine with, but that was always, I had to make fun of it because you're from Chicago.
Well, no,
but,
and also what WGN was so big that because kids I knew that didn't have professional baseball teams in their state, they had WGN, so they
Right.
would watch the Cubs. So they became Cubs fans.
Absolutely.
Because WGN was everywhere, which I
Right.
thought was so fast. Because when I'd meet a kid, I'd be like, "How do you know WGN?" And they're like, "What do you mean? We have it." I'm like,
Yes.
that's ours. You
Yes,
don't get that.
No, it's everybody's.
It's everybody's. Yeah,
My wife is from Iowa. They don't have a professional but
that's why a
she's
lot of Cubs
fan.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? She had the opportunity to pick many different cities, but she went to the Cubs because she could watch it on WGN.
because it was forced to her basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but
Well, look, Chicago has a history of either forcing or taking away our sports, and LA has done this too, which actually pisses me off. With they would black out local games, which
Right.
I can never wrap my head around unless you had Comcast or
Right.
Is that what it was? Comcast or something?
Comcast is one of the ones out here. Yeah,
Yeah.
But so I was a Jets fan growing up in New York.
Poor guy.
Exactly. So they never were on TV.
Right.
Because back then it was like they would get blacked out and you'd never get to watch your team.
Yeah.
I became a Cowboys fan. People were like, "How did you become a Cowboys fan? You grew up in New York. Why didn't you pick the Giants?" I was like, "Because I had already picked the Jets." If you're a Jets fan, you can't
Be a Giants
you
fan.
can't be a Giants fan.
No way.
Right? If you're an Islander fan, you can't be a Ranger fan.
Right.
If you're a Yankee fan, you can't be a Met fan. Right? It's just that's the way it was.
That's the way it goes. And you picked
Right.
America's team.
And the reason why I picked America's team was because they were the other team on TV.
Right. You could always see them.
I could watch them.
Right. I never understood the blackout for the Dodgers. They do that still today. Comcast
Right.
doesn't let you.
Well, now Spectrum, isn't it?
Spectrum, right?
Spectrum does that.
And I have the MLB package, so
Okay.
because I'm upset. We didn't even get into baseball when you talked about touring. I've been to all but 7 stadiums in the
Wow.
United States. So when I would tour for stand up,
Yes.
I would make it a point to go to a game during the day.
Beautiful.
And either the feature that was with me or a local guy, I'd always be like, "Hey man, I'll buy your ticket if you come to a game with me," because I knew a lot of guys didn't love baseball the way that I loved it.
Right.
And they're like, "I don't want to go to a game." I'm like, "Come on, it's a day game, and then we can still make the shows at night."
Right.
And then I started bringing guys with me that were like absolute, like loved it.
Loved it.
But I never understood that you'd black out a local game for people here to see. I never wrapped my head around it.
It's because they want you to go to the stadium.
I know, but you know what? The owner of the old Blackhawks had the exact same theory, and it failed him miserably. So much so that they immediately reversed it because he said, if you're at home watching a game, you should be at the stadium watching it live. People don't have those lives.
Right.
People have jobs, they have
Yes.
kids, they have families,
Right.
they have stuff going on.
And they don't have the money.
Right. That's expensive. It's so expensive to go to a game.
Are you buying me my ticket? Because that TV is free.
Yeah, that failed him. I can't remember the guy's name, but he owned the Chicago Blackhawks, and he did that for a while. They thought, okay, well, I'll take it off TV.
Right.
It failed so bad for him. It was such a poor choice because the city fought back so hard.
Right.
He reversed it
Right.
because he was like, this was a bonehead move.
Right.
Something Chicago, a city like Chicago, a city like New York gets done. For some reason, we're such cowards in LA that we can't fight back and make a big enough stink societally because there's so many transplants like
Yes.
us that don't have the gall to support the local teams enough to go, hey, man, you got to be able to show that on regular TV to people.
Right.
We don't do that. I don't like
Well,
that.
it's all business now. It's all about big business,
I
right?
know.
And it's like, baseball has surpassed the average American, right? The average American can't go to a baseball game,
It's so expensive now, man.
right? I mean, if you think about just parking, getting a ticket, 2 tickets, right? So you and your kid, you want to go take your kid to a baseball game. You can't, I mean, an average guy can't afford that. And maybe once, a birthday present or something like
Sure.
that, right? And you're paying, you're going to get the Dodger dog or the Yankee dog, whatever you get, right? And you get a beer or a soda. I mean, the sodas are what, $15? I mean,
Yeah, that's insane.
What do you like? who can afford that, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't feel like, you're having to take a loan out to go to a baseball game for certain families, right? And what about families that have 3 and 4 kids? You're going to take the whole. You got to pick one, right?
Right.
I mean, we have to start re-looking at how we're able to support our teams. I think sports has gotten too far out of whack. I think that Kevin Durant and LeBron James and whoever else in baseball and all these guys that make a gazillion dollars. You go, listen, what you do is amazing, and nobody else can do that.
They bring in the revenue.
I get it. But shouldn't this still be entertainment for fun? For
Sure.
people to be able to see and
Right.
and go to a game every once in a while? I mean, during the Kobe Shaq years, like, you couldn't buy a ticket. You know how expensive it was to get a ticket to go to a Laker game?
No, I wish I was around during then.
I mean, I happen to know Dr. Bus, so I was able to go.
Yeah.
I call the owner because I wasn't going to pay for a ticket.
No, it's too much. And you were making
And
money.
I'm making money. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not buying a ticket to the game. I want to go to a game. I'm not buying a ticket. That's too much money. We have all these friends at Lakeside that have like season tickets. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I look at Andy Garcia. I'm like, really, Andy? You gonna pay that much for this? You got one, and he got one seat.
Yeah. He's like, one and a half.
One and a half.
Split another one.
He split the other one with someone. So depending on which day, I mean, one time he wasn't going and gave me and Grant Show his tickets to the game. I was, that's great. I was like, I thought you only had one seat. He's like, yeah, but I rent this other one every once in a while. And you go, Andy Garcia goes, I can't really afford 2 seats.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, he can afford 2 seats, but you know what I mean.
No, but it's gotten pricey. I mean, I used to go to Clippers games when they were $15 on Sundays, and I thought that was insane. I was like, this is the best. And then now you can't go to a basketball game for under $80. I mean,
No.
it's crazy.
Crazy,
I mean,
crazy,
yeah,
crazy.
these are the times, but also, stop charging so much money,
Yes,
man.
please.
Let us go to the games.
Let regular folks go and enjoy.
All right, you and I need to go play some golf.
We're gonna go play some golf.
Because we need to go play some golf.
Yes.
Take some money.
Yeah.
I end the show the same way. I want you to look into that camera. Okay.
one there. Okay.
That camera down there. But I know we didn't get to some
No.
whiskey. It's early. We didn't even get to any. But you want to have just a snifter to say goodbye?
Yeah, just a bye drink.
Let me say
bye.
this is a Prideful Goat. This is from my boy Whiskey Pete, who's the man. If you're ever out in Houston, my brain isn't working.
I was like, Whiskey Pete's, isn't that like on the way to Vegas?
No, yeah. But this is called the Prideful Goat, and he is the man. And if you're ever down there, you got to send you to his distillery, and he'll take you on a little tour. You can pull from your own cask and all that stuff. Give me your cup there. We'll take just a little shot, just for good luck.
This is so that we go out and have just a great day.
Just for good luck.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, my friend,
brother.
my man.
Yep,
Love
yep.
you, Salanche.
Thanks
cheers
for having me on, brother.
I appreciate you coming.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you downed it. I'm having a sip.
I liked it. All right, so look inside that camera,
Yes.
and we end the episode the same way. You say one word or one phrase to take us out. One word or one phrase. Doesn't have to be all earth-moving and powerful.
Right. Well,
When you're ready.
love y'all.
In here, we pour whisk, 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 whisk.
You're that creature in the ginger beard.
Sturdy and ginger.
Like vampires, the ginger gene is a curse.
Gingers are beautiful.
You owe me $5 for the whiskey and $75 for the horse.
Gingers? Oh, hell no.
This whiskey is excellent.
Ginger. I like gingers.